looking back at Roger Corman and his little shop of horrors. I was 10 years old and sitting up alone in my parents' large, dark living room. I sat in my dad's orange and white recliner, wrapped in a blanket, watching WJRT-TV's late-night groovy ghoul Christopher Coffin and his presentation of Roger Corman's Little Shop of Horrors. Today, that low-budget black-and-white movie is campy and a cult classic. Not occult, but a cult. Back in 1965, as I sat there alone, The Little Shop of Horrors was genuinely creepy. The film was the brainchild of director Roger Corman, who was known at the time for cheap, hastily filmed, low-budget horror movies. Corman did give us some class movies, but he started out on the cheap with such films as The Swamp Woman, The Monster from the Ocean Floor, and Attack of the Crab Monster, to name but a few. By the way, Attack of the Crab Monster found Russell Johnson, the professor of Gilligan's Island, once again on an island, but this time with mutant crabs. But let's get to The Little Shop, okay? The movie came about in a most unusual manner. A few days after Corman finished work on a film titled Bucket of Blood in 1959, he had lunch with manager of Producer's Studio, which was the company who rented office space to Corman. The manager happened to mention that another company had just completed work on a film and had left their sets still standing. More as a joke than anything else, Corman said to him, "If you leave the sets up, I'll come in for a couple of days and see if I can invent a picture, because I have a little bit of money now and some free time." So the manager agreed, and Corman booked the studio for a week. Now at that time, Roger Corman was only 32 years old, but had already gained a reputation for making films that were profitable and on a very small budget. This ability later earned him the name the King of the B films. The film he had just completed was Bucket of Blood, a sort of beatnik horror foray that had been made in only 5 days, a personal record, and he bet his friend from Producer Studios, that he could make his next film in only 48 hours. Corman enlisted the aid of scriptwriter Chuck Griffith, who had written Bucket of Blood. He instructed Griffith to write a new variation on the same story. There would be only one limitation: it had to be written so that could use the existing sets, and that Corman would be able to rehearse all the scenes in 3 days and shoot them in 2. A week later, Griffith turned in the script, and for all intent and purposes, it was a thinly veiled rehash of Bucket of Blood. Let's compare the two tales. In A Bucket of Blood, a well-meaning sculptor accidentally kills his landlord's cat, then hides the evidence by turning it into a sculpture, which he names, appropriately, Dead Cat. When the sculptor brings him to the notoriety that he's always sought, he starts killing people and making them into statues. In Little Shop of Horrors, a well-meaning flower shop employee becomes a local hero after he accidentally creates a man-eating plant which he names Audrey Jr. as a tribute to his girlfriend by crossbreeding a Venus flytrap with a buttercup. He then begins killing people to keep the plant and his fame alive. The actual filming of Little Shop took place between Christmas and New Year's Eve in 1959. The film cost only $23,000, making the film, which included $800 for the completed script and an additional $750 for 3 different models of Audrey Jr. One was a 12-inch model, another 6-foot version, and an 8-foot version when the wacko plant was full-grown. A very cheap film, or budget, for a somewhat complicated story, really. A 23-year-old Jack Nicholson was hired to play the masochistic dental patient whose name was Wilbur Force. Once recalled that Corman pinched Penny so tight that he wouldn't even spend money to make copies of the script. Corman would actually take the script apart and give Nicholson the pages that had his scenes in it, rather than copying them. Roger Corman paid $317.34 to musician Fred Katz to write the musical score. Katz used the same score that he had written for Bucket of Blood, and it was also used again in The Wasp Woman, and again later in Creature from the Haunted Sea. No one really knows if Corman ever realized that he had bought the same score 4 times. Even if a shot was less than perfect, Corman would use it to save the bucks. During the first day of shooting, Jackie Hayes and Jack Nicholson accidentally knocked over the dentist chair, which spoiled the shot and broke the chair. When the property master told Corman it would take an hour to fix the chair, so that they could shoot the scene over, rather than go through that expense, Roger changed the script to read, "The scene ends with the dentist chair falling over." So he took advantage of the accidents as well. Corman was a legend at squeezing the absolute most out of actors and out of writers. One crazy example was with Chuck Griffith, who, remember, wrote the script. He also played a shadow on the wall, the man who runs out of the dentist office with his ear bitten, and also played the thief who robbed the flower shop. Griffith also directed the Skid Row exterior shots and also provided the voice for Audrey Jr. Talk about inexpensive realism. Corman also saved money by filming all Skid Row exterior scenes actually in Skid Row, and even used real bums to play the bums. Griffith, who directed the scenes, paid the bums the staggering wage of 10 cents per scene, using change from his own pocket. Well, Corman finished all the interior shots in the allotted 2 days. Then it took a couple more evenings shooting the exteriors. Even today, The Little Shop of Horrors can be found in the Guinness Book of World Records for the shortest shooting schedule for a full-length commercial film made without using stock footage. When originally released, Little Shop of Horrors was merely a modest success and did not attain its cult status until the late 1960s. Well, that's it for our look back at a cheap movie and its director. If you have never seen it, check it out here on YouTube in the original black and white, or you can also find the colorized version here. Thanks for stopping by. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe so you won't miss out on a single program right here on my favorite channel, the Dennis Morrison channel.